You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hey, it's Blake, the creator of Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast. Next week, we're dropping the final episode of Season 3. Isn't that wild? It's been a fantastic third season, and I'm so grateful you joined me on this ride. From our big win at the Ambies to our first ever feature with Apple Podcasts, and a slew of festivals and events in between, I've been so honored and humbled by your love and support as we keep this thing chugging along. We just dove into production on Season 4, and it's going to be a very different experience, but more on that later. For now, I want to prepare you for next week's episode, The People Who Used to Live Here, Part 2. The Giant Beige House at the end of a very long driveway. And don't worry, if you missed Part 1, you're not alone. It was the finale of Season 1. As such, I think it makes sense to share it with you now, again, as a re-release. I won't say much else, but I would grab your imagination hat before you proceed. I hope you enjoy this special re-release of The People Who Used to Live Here, Part 1. The Season 1 finale, which originally aired on December 29th, 2022. Keep in mind, that first season was my first time producing a podcast. Ever. And I was still learning. A lot. Fast. I think it's fun to hear the difference between then and now. And I hope you do too, but maybe listen with a little bit of grace. And thanks for everything. Hi. My name is Blake, and I have just a quick note before we get started. Actually, it's more like a recommendation, because this podcast is an immersive audio fantasy. And what you're about to hear is best experienced with headphones on, imagination on, and everything else turned off. And for this particular episode, headphones are of the utmost importance because today, you and I, we're completely blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. An acquaintance of mine in the Urbex community, or urban exploration for those of you who may not know, turned me on to the location of an abandoned manor in the Hudson Valley, New York. Now, normally, I weave you in and out of my fantastical dreamscapes that rumble in and out of my imagination as I wander through the ruins of America. But today, we're going all in. Nothing but my imagination the whole time. But don't worry, I can set the scene for you, give you a little bit of elusive context. So, close your eyes. I want you to picture a house. A giant, yellow house. It's crumbling, falling in on itself, and it's completely full of everything. A life. A whole life. A grandiose staircase. A foosball table. Chandeliers. An electric wheelchair. Books. Photographs, trophies, pill bottles. A child's room with a single roller skate sitting on the floor, surrounded by purple walls, where a portrait of a leopard hangs next to the closet, watching every move you make. And written in black paint is a message on the wall from the person who used to sleep here. And downstairs in the study, next to the giant bird cage and the guitar, on the opposite side of the room from the hearth sits evidence that someone broke the law. And that's not speculative. You can look it up if you can figure out where my fantasy has taken us in the final episode of this season. I'll give you a hint. It's a mansion in the mountains, and it's full of life. But the people who used to live here are nowhere to be found. So let's imagine them together. Welcome to Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast. The people who used to live here knew I drove for a mountain car service because a friend of a friend told them it was so. So, when the old man in the wheelchair called me up and asked me if I could take him and his eldest granddaughter Clara to the border, to Canada, I asked, "What are you, on the run?" And they snapped,
"What's it to you?"
in unison, just like that. And I replied, "Nothing. I was only curious." Because I've always been curious about the people who used to live here. Because the people who used to live here believed that they lived outside the law, that they floated above the rules, that they were indestructible, or so the old man in the wheelchair used to say. He'd say, "Girls, remember?
Girls, remember?
We transcend the rule of law."
We transcend the rule of law.
He'd say, "I know all the loopholes."
I know all the loopholes.
He'd say, "I have a better way,
I have a better way.
better than they'll ever dream of." And he handed each of his granddaughters a paintbrush, and he urged them, "Go paint.
Go paint.
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
Wherever you want."
Wherever you want.
And the eldest one rolled her eyes and instead dashed to her room full of medals and trophies and achievements and photographs made with disposable film, choosing a virtual conversation over her grandfather's paintbrush. The patron saint of AOL Instant Messenger, which Facebook eventually devoured without utensils after the subsequent fall of Yahoo and MSN and Ymail and Ask Jeeves, and the slow, slow rise of Bezos, and the eventual ghost of Jobs, and a new verb called Google.
You've got mail.
Goodbye. The people who used to live here knew their place in the pecking order, or at least they thought they knew their place in the pecking order, and would do anything to stay there, at all costs. The old man in the wheelchair turned to his youngest granddaughter, Rebecca, and he repeated, "Go, paint. Whatever you want, wherever you want, whenever you want." So she took hold of the brush and a can of black paint sitting at the edge of the kitchen counter next to her grandfather's pill bottle as she listened to the menacing sound of her eldest sister's door slamming shut and the jarring music of her eldest sister's swivel chair from Office Depot sliding across the floor made of linoleum that looked like wood. And she realized then and there that she was different, that she saw the world differently, that she was not above the rule of law. And she decided, yes, she would paint, but on her own terms, which meant that
you and I have something in common.
She whispered in my ear just before she asked me to take her to the border as she slipped a crisp $100 bill into my hand, a gift from her grandfather, the old man in the wheelchair, which he gave her for her 16th birthday. She was to meet a customs guard with whom she'd been engaging in her own virtual conversations in secret, with whom she would sneak into Canada, never to be seen again. We drove through the fading towns of northern New York and brushed up against the reservation of the Mohawk traditional government, full of charred and splintered buildings, brightly lit casinos, desolate destruction, the massacres and failures of America. And once we reached the bridge, she leapt out of the car and began to cross. But then she turned around one last time and said,
I painted the purple wall. Go find it.
And I didn't know what she meant until I returned to the broken, crumbling, decaying house, called on once again by the people who used to live here, their egos faced with county threats of lawsuits and evictions, faced with EPA threats of superfunds and violations, faced with the neighbors' threats of scapegoating and violence, to which the old man in the wheelchair barked, To hell
with all of you.
As he stood up like magic out of the wheelchair, the master of pretend exposed as he asked his eldest granddaughter Clara to come with him.
Would you come with me?
To find her younger sister Rebecca, his youngest granddaughter whom he believed had run away to Canada, where he believed he ought to go as well to transcend the rule of law, having called on me to drive him and his eldest granddaughter Clara to the border, to the river, past the disintegrating towns of northern New York, American Indian reservations full of evaporating buildings, ugly casinos, complete and utter destruction, the picturesque failures of America, where he told me, Don't look back.
Don't look back.
We'll be fine
We'll
from
be
here.
fine from here.
Don't worry about us.
Don't worry about us.
Which I hadn't planned on doing anyway, but nodded just the same, as he and his eldest granddaughter waded into the river, never to be seen again. I turned my car around and drove back one last time to the broken, crumbling, decaying yellow house of the people who used to live here. I sat in the driveway and listened to the music on the AM radio. Then I got out of my car and walked up the winding staircase in the silence and heat of the golden summer. And I turned left down the hallway and entered the purple room just as the youngest sister and granddaughter Rebecca had instructed. And I looked around, confused, until I turned around and stared directly into the eyes of a leopard hanging on the wall. And then I discovered what she meant when she said, I painted the purple wall. Go and find it. Next to the closet door, there was a message. It said, madness need not be all breakdown. It may also be breakthrough. And though I never understood what that meant, I trusted that, out of all the people who used to live here, she saw something the rest of them could not. I took a penny out of my pocket and placed it, heads up, on the mantel in the downstairs den, covered in cobwebs and filled with unread books, and decked out in the mounted heads of dead deer. And I looked across the room and noticed a guitar and a pair of ice skates leaning up against an empty birdcage. I sat down in front of it and closed my eyes and realized that it was beautiful, that the people who used to live here lived no more. if you're just tuning in, welcome to the 3rd season of Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast. Join me every other week as I take you on an immersive sonic journey, recounting my expeditions of abandoned spaces across the United States, which I transform into fantastical audio experiences that allow you, dear listener, to dive into my imagination with me, or maybe inspire you to go out and use your own. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to rate and review the show. Also, if you like to read or enjoy amateur photography, just know that each episode this season is adapted from the original All-American Ruins blog, where you can catch up on more of my adventures. Just visit allamericanruins.com or follow me on Instagram at allamericanruins. Thank you, my friend, for taking the time to explore these abandoned spaces with me.